Welcome to Booking It. Today's episode will be The Aeneid, books 9 and 10. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Booking It. I'm your eloquent host, Cooper Cobbs, and let me introduce the three other fine fellows who will be joining me today. Across from me, Mr. Isaiah Rayetsky.
Hello.
Wearing a shirt that said he didn't die. That's basically what it says.
Jumped out of an airplane.
Yeah, exactly. To my right, in the bright orange shirt, Mr. Bryson Bostwick.
Hey, everybody.
And across from me, in the nice blue polo, Mr. Tanner Lewis.
Hello. And it's Heather Cooper. We've gone over this.
You're right.
Wow.
It's Heather Blue. I apologize.
Wow.
Yeah. I think we have.
The discussions that they have, the arguments, the debates.
They're not okay.
Colors.
It happened on air last time, too.
I did? Really? Okay. Wow. Well, I know that we introduce everybody every time because we know that we sound alike because we are four men. And anyway, I struggle.
So how are they going to tell us apart, though? Because they just listen to our voices.
I struggle deciphering podcasts like two guys sometimes. I'm like, who's talking now?
Well, I do know, like, I was listening to one of the more recent Aeneid episodes. Oh, my goodness, my voice sounds so bad.
Really?
Yes, it did. I think I was really goofy that episode.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
It always sounds bad listening to yourself.
It does.
I know.
It's really weird. Isaiah's gotten used to it, though. Now.
I had to re-record an hour of myself for Dune.
Oh,
And
yeah,
it
I still need to
killed
go
me.
back and listen to
It
that.
killed me. I had to listen to myself. Like, the little bits and pieces that I had, and it just killed me.
All right.
Hey, I have to edit and listen to myself
true.
every week. Don't even talk, y'all.
All right. Well, today we're talking about the Aeneid books 9 and 10, but I think Tanner has a new way of engaging with the Aeneid he'd like to share with us first.
Okay, so here's the deal. I got through book 9 last night, okay? And in the car, I had to finish book 10, which I did do, in fact. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Surprising.
Applause.
But well done.
But the thing was, I had to turn on the audiobook, and I've never turned on the audiobook for the Aeneid before.
This is an unabridged audiobook?
This is an unabridged audiobook, but it is from a different translator who is apparently a poet. Fun fact, my entire, book 10, listening to it, rhymed.
Yeah.
Like,
the
the
whole thing.
entire thing.
Was this Alexander Pope's translation?
I have no idea. Let me check. It was like, I think it was like a...
So it was just rhyming a bunch of murder and slaughter?
Yeah, exactly. It was doing exactly that.
It sounded good.
I know. I was trying to read book 9 in the back seat, and here I'm listening to book 10 being rhymed, and I'm like, this is so hard to concentrate. I'm hearing the same story twice, but in different ways.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's John Dryden.
John Dryden. Never heard of him.
Me neither.
Never heard of him.
It just happened to be an audiobook that was
Okay.
unabridged.
That's cool. Well, I guess we'll update next week and see where that's at. So
I know if Tanner has decided to stick with this version or...
yeah, we'll see if he gets annoyed of it. Well, today we're talking about books 9 and 10 that are just heavy on the fighting, like really heavy on the fighting. Like, welcome back to the Iliad, folks. But today we're going to be kind of talking about Virgil's view of what a hero looks like versus what Homer's view of a hero looks like, kind of comparing all the fighting, the Iliad versus the warriors and the Aeneid. So, first off, brief summary of chapters. Anybody want to talk about what happened in the past two books at all?
Lots
Tower got lit on fire. There was some murder. There was a big battle. What is it? Jupiter said he wasn't going to side with anybody. There was
lots
another
of God
big
interference.
battle.
Jupiter was
Still.
kind of being like Pilate, like I'm washing my hands at this point. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
But,
like, Venus and Juno, y'all can duke it out.
Yeah,
I mean, that's essentially what
yeah.
happened.
So
There you go.
Turnus kind of went haywire, just like
Oh, my
was
goodness.
like shrekking everybody.
Well, I know, and like
And-
we talked about before, was that last week or a few episodes ago, just Turnus actually being somewhat of a leader, a good leader, but he goes insane.
Yeah, he's kind of, and then Juno's kind of helping him out. Like, okay, when I was reading and I was kind of picturing this, I was imagining him just like a one-man army. It's like taking, and then like at one point he just like ran off and jumped into a river, and Juno like carried him to safety. And I was like, wow,
Yep.
this is so
No, he was
bizarre.
slaughtering everybody, and then he got outnumbered even more than what he was, I guess. Somehow.
Right.
And
I
he
don't know
decided
why-
to bail.
I don't know what the limit was, like to the point whenever he got so outnumbered that they're like, all right, we're going to save him now.
Yeah, exactly. But like he was rock and rolling. But at some point, he killed somebody that Aeneas was supposed to look after. His name was Pallas, and I was really weirded out because in the Iliad, like one of the other names for Athena is Pallas.
Yeah.
And so I was like, he killed Athena? What's going on? What's going on? And I guess I didn't track who Pallas was at all. But he's something that Aeneas was supposed to look after. And then he was the
He's
son
son
of
of somebody really
right.
important.
He is supposed to be kind of the Patroclus figure, I guess.
Yeah.
Aeneas is like
The
somewhat,
motivation.
he's somewhat responsible for his death, even though he's not culpable, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's kind of what happened. Anybody want to talk about like the Homeric ideal of a hero versus what Virgil thinks the hero should be?
I don't know if I have a complete picture of Virgil's here yet, but I do really know Homer's idea is Kleos and fighting for glory at the same time as fighting for a city or state that you believe in that you have to protect, and that fighting for oneself is not all there is out there, or shouldn't be the main goal of any one fighter or any one man. I don't know, what would you say about Virgil? Is Virgil focusing mainly on the others focused glory and let me fight for my country, let me fight for my nation, or is it let me fight for myself and what I believe in? Because Turnus has I don't know for how long he's thought this, but he's basically decided that he's going to inherit all of Latium and he's going to be the ruling king there, and then all of this falls to pieces when Aeneas comes in, and what's his name? The king of Latium is like, oh man, I had visions that there was going to be a random foreigner come in and he was to marry my daughter.
Right,
so
it's kind of prophesy.
I give you thumbs up.
Yeah,
the gods say yes, so let's go.
And then Turnus was
Turnus is like, what?
Excuse me?
Yeah,
Hold
I thought
up.
we were.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Let me murder everyone.
And so yeah, his natural reaction is, let me go slaughter a bunch of people.
Yeah. I think that
Doesn't Turnus go and slaughter everyone after he gets like the vision that Aeneas isn't at the camp? Like that's how it starts,
I know there
Doesn't
is
that
a lot
happen?
of
right? That's how it happens in the beginning. Sorry, I'm just going back to the summary.
yeah,
'cause we
no, I
never
think
said
that's
that.
right. I think that's right.
yeah.
'Cause
And
he gets
Juno,
told
Well, I
by
think because I think
Juno,
I think Juno kind of like does.
Juno
Lets him know,
prods
like,
him.
hey,
as
yo,
usual.
he-
Aeneas
Aeneas ain't there.
Aeneas is not the foreigner you're looking for.
I know.
And then he's like, what?
I know, and I do like how in all of Homer's epics we have Aphrodite as the goddess that we should be saying, oh man, I can't stand what Aphrodite's doing, and
Right.
Hera, who's Juno.
I just feel like we relate, like
It
all
just
of us
has
relate the
completely
least to Aphrodite. Yeah. So
Wait, we do relate to Aphrodite?
no, the least.
Yeah,
Of all the gods.
Exactly.
Hold on a minute. Yeah. So I think that first off, Virgil's working with like different categories in Homer. So Homer's trying to play with, like you were talking about Bryson, and we talked about on our Iliad episodes, like Kleos, self-glory, Philos, sacrificial love, you know,
Philos.
Eidos, the shame that you feel for not protecting your people. And here he's working with piety and furor. But those still can like work out together. Like those can still play into the themes.
Yeah.
So this is a passage that Turnus says. He's kind of like bragging about himself. Did they not see the walls of Troy, built up by Neptune's hand, collapse in flames? Which one of you picked men is ready with his blade to breach their wall and rush their flustered camp with me? I need no arms from Vulcan, nor 1,000 ships to take these Trojans on. So he's kind of saying, I'm better than Achilles here.
Yeah,
right?
he's saying I don't. I like how he says, "Yeah, I don't need the help of any of the gods to get me through this." When lo and behold, he has Juno egging him on. He has all of the power coming from the gods. Like he even has. Doesn't he have river gods that are helping along, or is that Aeneas?
I mean, no. I mean, I think he
And
he's
he's
helped
like,
by
I
the
can
river.
do it all myself.
He almost
And
does.
it's almost like he has no idea that they're helping him, right? Just
Yeah,
like-
well, it's kind of like actually in the Iliad too. Like
yeah.
Achilles gets
yeah.
help from Athena and everybody else, and at the end, but he's kind of like doing all himself, kind of thing. Yeah. Oh, and Hector tries to get glory from killing Patroclus.
Uh-huh.
He's like, bro, like Apollo, like up and slapped my brain. Like you can't take credit for this.
Yeah.
I think also like Virgil. This is kind of talked about in Heroes of the City of Man as well. That it just seems like he is kind of not in favor of the author. So like in Homer, the Iliad, like he's kind of impressed. Like, man, Achilles, that guy was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, like whenever Ajax goes on a rage, whenever Hector is fighting really well.
Well, yeah, and that goes into the what is it? The added descriptions that they had for them, like brilliant Achilles or
Yes.
or
strong.
cunning Odysseus, or yeah, they every time they were
Wide
mentioned, they
Agamemnon.
were praised.
Yeah. But and in, you know, we talked about it last time. Like furor is futile. Like that's kind of the message that Virgil is trying to illustrate here. That going against piety, going against the will, the fate, the will of the gods.
Mhm.
All that is ultimately futile. So whatever rage you have, it's not going to do anything. It's distasteful in the broad scheme of things.
Yeah.
You know. So, we have a lot of allusions this time to Homer. A lot of the Iliad allusions. We have another Achilles getting a new shield, right? So Aeneas gets his own shield from Vulcan, from Hephaestus. So what do you think the significance of that shield is? Like, what is it? Virgil is obviously alluding to the time when Achilles gets his shield, but like, what is the difference between what Achilles gets and what Aeneas gets?
It's lame. It's not a big 4-page description of it.
I know. It doesn't have like the whole histories of mankind on the shield.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just kind of there.
Yeah, but then at the same time,
It has a description. It's just
and then
it's just not grand.
But Turnus still is. I don't know. Is he envious or jealous of it at all? I think he definitely gives mention to it.
If
and
you had a shield and I didn't, I'd be jealous of that too.
He's like, how dare my opponent get a new shield when I'm doing all this by myself?
Yeah. Is his shield made out of gold though? Is it like the one from?
Yeah. Achilles was made.
Yeah.
out of
Is
gold.
this one though?
I think. Yeah. It's burnished gold, 7 layers thick.
Still lame.
7 layers thick. I was trying to figure out what that means.
Yeah. What does that mean? Wait, because
like a plate of gold, and then another plate of gold.
Like how thick is a
But they
plate
said
of gold?
there was leather. They were made of leather too.
Yeah.
And then
Well, like, you hear descriptions of like cowhide shields too and
Yeah.
things like that. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure
Too
there were
complicated
levels
for
of
my brain.
shields. You know, like if you were a soldier, I'm sure you said like dried cowhide or something like that over wood or
If
something.
you were a low man,
Yeah, if you
low
were
on the totem pole.
dispensable, a pawn, that kind of thing.
they just give you a shield just for looks.
Yeah, the shield won't stop anything. Shoots an arrow, goes straight through the shield.
I mean, when the gods are pushing the arrows, that's what happens, and that's like all of the Iliad.
So according to Heroes of the City of Man, Peter Lightheart, he points out that like the shield, instead of Achilles' shield, this shield represents like the victory of Roman piety over violence. So instead of it glorying in the warrior, it's glorifying piety, eventually triumphing over the fear and violence, right? And the final line is like he takes up a shield and he takes upon his shoulder all the destined acts and fame of his descendants. So he's kind of taking up a shield in order to, go out and secure the piety of the Romans for the future. If that makes sense. Instead of like fighting for self-glory, then fighting for awesome victory, he's fighting for piety and for his family.
Yeah, because that's what
descendants.
Turnus is fighting for, right? Just
Yeah.
his own kingdom. Instead of like, Aeneas has this full vision. He has a much broader scope and future ideas, future glory for not only his kingdom but the kingdom he's going to build. He's talked to his father and seen everything that will come, and even been described, even been told about Caesar Augustus, like that far down the line.
Right.
And I mean, obviously, it's because Virgil wanted to glorify the Roman concepts that were already in existence.
This is still kind of a bit of a propaganda piece.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
exactly.
Got to keep that.
But still, at the same time, we can sympathize with Aeneas a whole lot more because he has a broader vision. He has a more a purpose that we can side with in most ways.
Right.
And Turnus is just for his own glory, for his own not chasing pietas in any way or agreeing with the fate that the gods have handed down to.
Yep. Well, so my question for you guys now is, can furor ever serve pietas? Okay. So here in Book 10, we see that Turnus is kind of like bragging and fighting. It eventually kills Pallas, who's like in Aeneas' charge. He was a young warrior who, his dad had entrusted Pallas to Aeneas, and then he gets killed by Turnus. But then Aeneas kind of goes on a bit of a rage afterwards. So I guess my question is, like, does Virgil think that furor can ever be used in the service of the larger goal of piety?
I mean, overall, I think so, but it shouldn't be the way that he's living his life. Because I mean, Turnus, like we know Aeneas is meant to have these battles, is meant to have these wars, these fights, before he actually inherits the kingdom or before the kingdom becomes his. So there has to be someone filled with furor to fight that will grow Aeneas' character and make him into the king that he eventually needs to be. So on the outside, I definitely think that furor is something that can serve an end goal. But with Aeneas himself, is what you're saying. Is Aeneas justified in pursuing furor over pietas in that one instance? I would say no.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, keeping in the moment, it seems like that's what he needs to be able to overcome all those obstacles and be able to take down the armies that he's facing. But can he still do that with pietas, or chasing pietas instead of furor? And yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done it this whole time.
Right. True. I think also Leiter points out that like the origin of his rage, his anger is not like the same as like Achilles, you know.
Yeah.
So like if we're gonna compare Pallas to Patroclus, Achilles
yeah.
just goes on rage, right? For rage's sake, he's offended this like personal loss of his.
Yeah. And Patroclus, as far as we know, is a whole lot closer of a friend to Achilles
Correct.
than Pallas is
Right.
to Aeneas.
Right, and so that's why he's driven more by like a duty of like he was in my charge, he died, I have this duty to go and seek out vengeance, basically. But then there's also Leiter has some good comparison of like when Turnus kills this undermatched opponent in Pallas, a young man, and boasts about it. Aeneas doesn't do that. So like Turnus like runs away from Achilles when Achilles is like chasing after him, and then he like basically puts this like young soldier in front of Aeneas, and Aeneas is like, "Yo, bro, get out of my way! I don't want to kill you. You're so young." And then he's like, "Okay, fine. I guess that you're not gonna get out of my way." And then kind of Aeneas laments the fact that he had to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, poor young soldier! How will Aeneas reward your splendid fight? How honor you in keeping with your nature?" That kind of thing. "Your consolation for sad death is this: you die by the sword thrust of great Aeneas."
At least you died at my hand.
But he acknowledges it's sad, but he's like, okay, well, at least you died honorably, that kind of thing.
At
So
least
he's
you
not
died
being
because of
arrogant.
me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, that's who is that? Does Hector do that at the end?
No,
I
I
don't
mean
feel like he
Hector on the battlefield.
For some reason, I immediately thought of Solomon.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
Solomon and the slave that was like, I killed Solomon, and Solomon was like, no, you didn't. I killed myself.
What do you mean? You're talking about David and Saul.
I mean, yeah.
Saul.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
was like Saul.
Not
I was
Solomon.
like,
What are you
I don't know
talking
what.
about?
Yeah.
Because Saul comes. The guy comes to David and it's like, yo, I killed Saul, and David is like, what do you mean you killed Saul? Die. Yeah. So anyway, let's talk about. We talked about like Pallas being Patroclus and Aeneas kind of being compared to Achilles. So you tease that a bit more. Like, how is Aeneas like Achilles, and how is he not like Achilles?
Yeah, he doesn't follow furor and rage the whole time.
Yeah, true.
And he actually has a goal. I don't think Achilles really had a goal other than
Himself.
get glory, get Cleos,
Mm-hmm.
make a bigger name out of myself. And like he consciously made that decision when he got back into the fray and got back into the fight after his mom said, "You don't. If you fight any longer, you're going to die. You will gain lots of glory, but you will not have a long life."
Mm-hmm.
And he, after Patroclus dies, he's like, "Oh well, sorry, I got to do this, but I know I need more glory, and my rage is going to win out in the end."
Mm-hmm.
Starts in the beginning, finishes with rage.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think also in terms of some comparisons, like the Latium is kind of like winning the battle at this point, right? Like Turnus is kind of doing some damage. Like even Jupiter is like, no man, like
Fate
Juno's
is
doing,
not going.
He's like, whatever, just Fate's gonna take over this point, I guess. Like and then Venus is so scared that she gets this armor for her kid, right? Because she's not liking how it's turning out. But then just like Achilles, once Aeneas like enters the battle and becomes an awesome warrior, and he is motivated to like become angry once Pallas dies, then that kind of turns the tide of the war, right?
Yeah. Well, what do we think about him? Like, Achilles' main fight is just for himself, and he only really trusts himself.
Right.
But
I think
Aeneas has gone and got Evander and some of his band.
Right.
He's went to a different. I'm forgetting the name of. There's another tribe or kingdom that he also talked to. He also talked to them. So he kind of shows he isn't fighting just for himself, and he knows that if I'm able to build this kingdom, and this kingdom, I will run it fruitfully, I will run it graciously, and I will protect the other kingdoms around me. So he kind of starts off making sure that the other kingdoms around him or the other people around him are going to be allies and going to be people that he can trust by serving them first.
Yeah, for sure.
But also dragging them into war.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that part.
We
We
don't
don't talk about that part.
I guess like what's the takeaway for us here? Like, okay, furor when like motivated correctly can be in service of pietas. Like Jesus, wrecked the temple, basically, and yelled at the Pharisees, but he didn't sin, right? I mean, there is a sense.
It is so hard for us to do
right,
that.
but Paul says, "Be angry and do not sin." Right, so like there is some sense in which we see at the word, we see injustice, we see evil, we're angry, right? Like that's good, So I guess like what's the takeaway for this? What can we take from the Aeneid? What can we take from being humane in battle? What can we take away from Aeneas being this hero who's not quite like the Homeric ideal? Like, what is the takeaway for us?
Yeah, I was listening to Stories of Soul Food this week, and they were talking about that in sports and how it's so hard to control yourself in sports and stuff like that. And so many times we don't face those moments when pain or when someone inflicts pain on us or someone wrongs us. We don't experience that enough so that when it does come in big ways, we overreact and we lose our self-control and we completely forget about who we are and whose we are and what our goal is in this life, and we just start thinking about ourselves. And so, we need to keep in mind what our goal is. And in having righteous anger at something, is this anger just because we hate this thing or because God hates this thing?
Right.
Is this something that
we should objectively be angry about, or we just subjectively angry about?
Yeah. Is this something that I have decided is no longer aligns with my morals, or I've seen that no longer aligns with God's word, with what He has told me to do, with what I should be living out every day? I don't know.
Fellows across the table?
Yeah, Tanner, opinions?
I agree. I just words, mind, gone.
What was the question again?
Basically, like, what's the takeaway for us? Like, what could we take away from reading the Aeneid of like, okay, we should be in service of pietas. Furor, when motivated correctly, can be used to serve pietas. Like, how do we apply that to our lives?
Yeah. Like in football, that can you see like that can be harnessed. That I'm not saying that anger in sports is something that we should all pursue, but just showing and seeing that frustration, that anger can have a purpose and can be used. But yeah, it's so very hard to control.
I mean, let's be real. We're men, like
we're
somewhat built to be like the protector of the family, and
it's right for us to be angry at the evils and injustices of the world. But at the same time, we have to be chasing the good, true, beautiful. Why are you staring at me like that? Yeah, we have to be cautious, but also living with abandon at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like
I could say
it's a
all
paradox.
The stuff he just said, but I ain't, so I'll just go with something else. I agree with all that he said.
Tanner found
something else too.
Say it.
Yeah, I know. Tanner will say it in a second. It's my turn. Is that you could also use like Turnus and use, that's a very extreme example, but you said to look at yourself and make sure that you're not overstepping your bounds and trying to push your will and what you think should happen versus what is meant to happen.
Yeah.
His is a very extreme case.
Right.
Don't go murder someone because you wanted to go eat somewhere else or something.
You should read great books.
Because you
like,
wanted to go eat
like,
somewhere else? Is that what you said?
No, like
I was hoping someone would
I wanted
it.
to eat at McDonald's.
This is the problem with a lot of like modern romance is like you watch it and you're like, oh man, I am that person. I am, overlooked. Like those ladies, they just, if they got to know me, I would be like, the man. But instead you read Jane Austen, you're like, oh man, like I see myself in that flawed character. And I got to get better. And like I said, this is an extreme example here. But seriously, like, oh man, I can be bullheaded and, rage. And I need to stop that.
Well, I mean, go ahead, Tanner.
Cooper just stole my word.
What? What?
What can I say? I'm prescient. Okay.
Yeah, just like me personally, I tend to be I tend to be hot-headed, but I don't come off as that sometimes. Maybe I do. So like I just tend to be hot-headed, like in certain instances, in certain situations.
Who knows
And,
how one comes across?
Honestly, I feel like it's almost the same for the Aeneid, right? Like they're clearly not always hot-headed, right? But it's like in certain situations, he'll rise up and just be bullheaded, as Cooper just said, and just try and ram and kill and destroy.
Yeah, I think so. This just reminds me of another thing I heard recently talking about, like, we shouldn't be seeking out those injustices in the world, though. We shouldn't be seeking out the evils so that we can then go punish them. God has put things in our life that we have seen, that we have the ability to face, the ability to fight those things.
You mean like I shouldn't take a commercial airline to like a Middle Eastern country and like go ham on some people?
Yeah,
What you're saying?
yeah. I mean, if that is...
Well, I'm saying like, what do you mean we shouldn't go seek it out? Because like, why not? Like the gospel is advancing, the kingdom of God is growing. Like,
well, yeah. I mean, if that is what your goal is, to share the gospel, if your goal is to just attack evil and condemn evil, I don't think that's. I mean, God does give certain times and certain purposes. I mean, He had whole nations wiped out by the Israelites, for that very purpose. But I don't know. It was just reminding me of like the knowledge of good and evil, and sometimes there are things that are so evil that we don't need to know about them, and things that are so good that we aren't meant to know about them too.
Be innocent of evil. That's Paul says, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Not seeking out that ultimate evil.
I understand. Like you shouldn't have like an intricate knowledge of evil. Like,
yeah.
Oh man, it takes one to know one. Like I gotta like do all these things so I can know how to defeat evil now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that
you
one
overcome evil by knowing good.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, there are people that do that. There was
That's what I'm saying.
like,
So it's a danger.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I was listening to a guy who was on the Joe Rogan, or rather, I listened to a clip of a guy who was on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Program
podcast. Who he tried everything, didn't work out so well for him.
What do you mean everything? Like,
Isn't that like everyone that ever goes on the Joe Rogan podcast?
That's true.
Went down some deep holes, I think is what it means.
Yeah, specifically with illicit drugs.
Tried everything.
Yeah,
Yes.
most of the people that go on the podcast.
And sometimes they still do them all on the podcast, right? So,
Nonetheless, I think it's just a good point, right? Like we shouldn't be seeking out, we should be attempting to conquer evil, but we
yeah,
should
when
not be
evil
seeking
presents
to
itself,
gain an intimate knowledge.
when evil presents itself, or the seed of evil, we
Right.
do need to crush that immediately.
Yeah.
We do need to stand.
God will never,
stand firm.
like James
And
says,
that's
God
when
is
this
not
righteous anger is necessary.
God doesn't tempt you with evil. I mean, every time we hear about temptations, we just flee. You don't entertain temptation to better destroy it. You know?
Yeah.
It's not some tactical maneuver that you can pull off.
Exactly.
It's flee. Yeah.
Get rid of it as
Squash.
soon as possible. Yeah. Don't play with sin, because it's not going to play with you.
Right. Yeah. Don't coddle it. Yeah.
Mm.
Hey, well, I like where that went. I don't know, you guys. Any final thoughts, anybody? You gotta finish off the Aeneid next week, huh?
That is next week, man.
Finally.
This one was way quicker.
Yeah.
Well, it was also like
We went by in a fever dream kind of thing. All right. Well, let's do some donor shout outs. So if you want a donor shout out, you go to patreon.com/booknet. You give us $5 or more, we give you a shout out. That's how it works. Easy as that. You get also some other stuff like patron only posts. If you donate more, you get bonus episodes. Really cool stuff. Go check it out. So thank you to Nana,
Thank you.
Yay.
Van Pappy and Wela,
Thank you.
Mike and Sylvia,
Mike and Sylvia. Thank you so much.
Moses and Zara,
Moses and Zara.
and Jenny and Uncle Sam,
And Jenny and
Jenny
Uncle
and Uncle
Sam.
Sam.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mike, Miss Laura,
Mr. Mike and Miss
Mike and Miss
Laura.
Laura, my
Thank you.
and
And
Emily,
Emily, we got to translate.
trying to figure out what was going on.
Emily.
Kenan,
Keenan.
howdy,
Howdy.
my mother,
Miss
Your mother's
Jenny.
Mrs. Hall,
Miss Hall, thank you.
aye, well,
William, thank you very much.
Kara,
Miss Kara, thank you so much.
and thank you to everybody who supported us. We appreciate it. So,
Yes.
Also,
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We love all of y'all.
No, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you guys want to check out some of the free stuff we do, go to our website at 412podcasting.com. Follow us at @BookinItPod. Tanner is managing the Instagram, and yeah, he's doing it well.
What was
Also,
that?
you can sign up for our newsletter at our website. Every month, we get a cool, fun new newsletter sent out to you guys, so that's pretty fun as well. So, thank you for listening. Love you guys. We'll see you next time. Until then,
Keep on booking it.